Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Before starting, subscribe and like the videos, it really helps a lot. The content from this video are taken from the web novel and manga series of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Now please enjoy the video.
Volume 11 Chapter 6 Maid and Boarding Student Part 1. After the end of the exam, leading Aisha and Norn, I returned to our house. It was a written exam. It wasn't something that corresponds to your age. It was an orthodox entrance exam that combines general knowledge and the basic 6 types of magic. Targeting all ages, it's different from the time with me. Naturally, I guess. Aisha got full points on her exam. The culture is somewhat different between here and Milis. In other words, that means there's a gap between the general knowledge. Even so, she took full points. I have nothing to complain about. Gina's as well was saying if this is how it is when she's 10 years old, then with some conditions attached, she could be a special student. Although, the promise with Aisha wasn't about that. Then, just as promised, I'm going to serve Oni-chan, right? After we returned to the house, Aisha declared that triumphantly. That expression was one full of pride. That means you intend to become the housemaid? Even though we're family? That's wrong. I'm not going to become the housemaid. I'm going to become Oni-chan's maid. Her dream for the future is to become Oni-chan's maid. That is, I really wonder about that. I can't help the feeling that something is warped. However, a promise is a promise. All right. Then make sure you listen to whatever I tell you. Yes. Looking forward to serving you, Master. Master, it has a good sound to it. If it wasn't my little sister saying it to me, I'm sure I'd be getting very excited. Even though I have a beloved wife. Even though I say that, if you think of anything that you want to learn, say it without reservation. At that time, does that mean Master will teach me all about it? Aisha put one of her fingers against her lips and made a flirtatious glance. I wonder if what she wants to be taught is something erotic. If she says something like, Oni-chan, teach me how children are made, I'll go ahead and teach her properly all about sex education. Of course without eroticism. Although, what's with Master, since I'm going to be serving you, it's no good if we don't make the distinction. Oh? It's honorifics. Is the usual Oni-chan no good? That would be mixing work and private affairs. As expected of someone who earned full points. She sure knows some difficult words. Well, it's fine I guess. Though, I might end up being looked at with weird eyes by Sylphy. She did take full points after all. I'll let her do as she pleases. I understand. In regards to the job, please consult with Sylphy, and decide on it. Yes. I've learned the jobs of a maid from my mother. Please leave it to me. After saying that, Aisha stood up and crossed her arms in front of her body, then deeply bowed her head. It's the birth of the little sister maid. Little sister maid. What a moving impression the sound of those words give off. Well, she will still be taught as well, so in my previous life it would at most be called helping with chores. Part 2 on Norn's side, they were scores you can't really call good. According to Gina's, they were average, or maybe even a bit lower for her age, but it seems it's not bad. Even though I say that, if we were to compare her to Aisha, saying there's no inferiority would just be sugarcoating it. Well, she did come here after journeying for a year. It was an exam she took soon after settling down, it can't be helped. I'm sure at least she would have liked a chance to study and review. There's no need to rush. It's fine as long she improves from here on. Even if she can't become number 1, setting average as the final goal is not a problem. Human society is made up of compromises like that. It's fine if you're not superior. It's fine if you're just average. Norn, which subject do you want to study? Norn didn't respond. Just continuing with her eyes cast down, averting her eyes with a sullen face. It seems she still doesn't like me. I'd like to close the distance a bit more between her and me. However, well, I wonder what can be done about it. I'm not all that familiar with the subjects that can be studied though. If I remember correctly, after studying the common knowledge classwork for 3 years, you're allowed to choose. In our school, there's some pretty interesting lessons you can take. For the time being, try attending for a few years and see if you can find something that you would like to do. If there's nothing, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and specialize in healing magic. Mother was a healing magician as well after all. Since there's few healing magicians around this area, You'll be able to find work in a doctor's office or hospital. Since there was no reply, I was just going on and on talking myself. And suddenly, Norn looked this way. It was somehow a gaze that wanted to say something. I kept silent. I want to try living in the dorm. Norn quietly said that with a nervous tone of voice. I started to think over those words. Living in the dorms, huh? That's no good. Though, it'll be simple to just reject it. However, I'll try thinking about it seriously. It seems that Norn went out of her way to gather her courage after all. First off, it's having a 10-year-old young girl living on her own. Regardless of other things, that's too soon. However, living in a dorm isn't living alone. Fundamentally, there are 2 people per room. Since Norn came over here, she only has a few acquaintances. She has no friends as well. If she were to live in the dorm, she might be able to make friends. I'm sure there are more or less some problems in regards to her age though. There are kids in that school who start living in the dorms and attending from a younger age as well. The dorm has some extent of precise rules and is a safe place. Even saying she's 10 years old, I'm sure she won't be inconvenienced. I want to get along a bit better with her, but if things continue in this state, I have the feeling that even if we manage to get closer physically, we'll just remain at the same distance emotionally. In my previous life I was always secluded in my parents' house. Secluded, rejecting everything. My family tried making plans for this and that in order to try and close the distance between us. Fishing using expensive items, bringing delicious tasting things, talking about the future with sweet words. Each time, I felt like my heart was getting further away from my family. I got the feeling like I was being treated as an animal. Rather than living in the same place, seeing each other's faces every day, and speaking of each other's complexion, living in a somewhat separated place and watching over her from a distance might be the better option, wouldn't it? Isn't it important for each side to mutually calm down and look over things in regards to the other side? Aisha took on a natural attitude that looks down on Norn. I've told her to be careful about it, but since the person herself doesn't seem to be self-conscientious about it, the disposition is a bit bad. I'm sure there's no other option than to try and fix it over a long period. Being looked down on by Aisha inside the house, continually unable to face me whom she hates, I don't think I can stand at the top myself, but in this world, I am considered excellent as I go about. The bitterness of trying to grow up surrounded by superior siblings, there's no option other than running away from home. I already know the fate of a young girl who runs away from home. Being pulled in by a bad man in exchange for letting her stay over, requesting these sorts of things and those sorts of things. If that's the case, then from the start, it's better to have her stay in a place that is safe, I'm sure. Besides, Sylphy is in the dorms as well. She stays at home once every 3 days, but in reverse, that means she's at the dorm 2 out of every 3 days. If a time ever comes up where something happens, I'm sure she can quickly support her. Fortunately, it seems Norn doesn't hate Sylphy. I guess the naked socializing on the first day was having an effect. Yeah, after thinking about it, I don't think it's a half-bad suggestion. Living in the dorms at 10 years old. I wonder if she can properly learn to be independent and socialize properly. I get it. It's fine for Norn to live in the dorm. I'll submit an application. Oni-chan. The one who raised her voice in surprise was Aisha. She was making a face like she couldn't believe it. Why? Norn Ann's scores weren't good at all. Her maid tone from just before had crumbled. Aisha? Even though I put that much effort into it, it's no fair for just Norn Ann. It's not that sort of problem. However, looking at it from Aisha's side, it might look like I'm showing favoritism. In order for her own wishes to be fulfilled, she took full points on the exam. It could be that during this past week, she's been reviewing and preparing for it in a place where I wasn't watching. Norn didn't do anything, and yet, I'm allowing Norn to do as she wants. That is unfair. It is favoritism. During times like these, I wonder what my parents said in my previous life. I can't remember. For example, listen to what I tell you or listen to what I say. I have the feeling I was told something like that. I wonder if I was able to agree with that. I'm sure I wasn't able to. I wonder about Aisha. Would she be able to accept it with that way of talking? I'm sure she wouldn't be able to. No, she's a superior child. I'm sure, if I told her what I was thinking, she would understand it. That's what I think, but that might just be my arrogance. In any case, I'll try talking to her and see. Aisha, it's not like I'm particularly listening to Norn's selfishness. I thought that living in the dorm would be better for her sake. But Norn hasn't made any acquaintances since she came over here. Well, I can't really say much myself, since things don't really balance up with me as well. I'm sure you've seen this past week, but it almost looks like breathing has become difficult. But, Oto-san said, we should live together with Oni-chan. After being told like that, I feel like I have no choice other than to tie Norn to the house. No, there's no way that's the case. There's no way it's better to always do as one is told. Paul is often mistaken after all. I can't really say that my decision is correct as well though. Of course, I have no intention of abandoning my duty of looking after you two. But, if things continue like this, things won't end up well for Norn. By living in the dorm, she might be able to obtain something. Aisha cast her eyes down. For some reason, those eyes had tears building up in them. Showing partiality to Norn Ann, is it because my mother is a mistress? Abruptly, Aisha said those things. Mistress. After hearing those words, I instinctively felt that this is bad. By mistress, you mean Lilia-san? Aisha, who told you that? Was it Oto-san? There's no way Norn could have said it right. Mother and also Norn's grandmother. Large tears were falling from Aisha's eyes. Speaking of Lilia and Norn's grandmother, in other words, Zenith's parents' home. I can't help that Lilia has said it. She feels one step drawn back in regards to Zenith and it seems she intends to pass things through completely with the position of a maid. Therefore, it can't be helped if she makes the request for the position to be one step back in regards to Zenith's daughter. I'm sure Paul would connect with them equally, but by no means does that make them equivalent. Zenith's parents are nobles. If I remember correctly, it was a house with a considerable pedigree. My aunt, Therese, was by no means a bad person. However, it's not like everyone has a lenient way of thinking about the social position. In the first place, they have reason to be affectionate towards Zenith's daughter, but if it's Lilia's daughter, then there's no reason to be affectionate. They're not related by blood after all. It's not a matter of blaming either side. It's that sort of culture. Is it because I'm only connected half by blood? Sniffle. However, there's no way a child wouldn't be hurt over things like that. Aisha with her face completely crumpled up started hiccuping. I might have misunderstood something a bit. Aisha is a difficult child in Aisha's own way. I don't think of Lilia-san as a mistress at all. I feel that both you and Norn are equally my little sisters. But, Gusu, worked hard, studied, and took the exam. Norn Ann is. Aisha was appealing while crying between pauses. After all, it seems she studied for it. Even though there was only 1 week before the exam, she was able to take a good score. Aisha. What is it? You might not understand if I put it into words, but I intend to recognize your hard work. Therefore, I permitted the fact that you don't have to go to school. But, you said Norn Ann is allowed to stay in the dorm. Sniffle. Aisha's nasal voice is sounding in my heart. However, this isn't favoritism. In regards to everything, I intend to make decisions based on that time. For example, if you were to say you wanted to go to school starting now or wanted to enter the dorm, I would allow that. But in reverse, if Norn said she doesn't want to go to school, or says she wants to do work around the house, I won't allow that because you got full points on the exam. After saying that, Aisha bent her lips and kept silent. And then, I understand. Having said that, it seems like she still has some dissatisfaction. However, in the end, she accepted it with a nod. Norn watched over this situation in a way that she wasn't finding anything amusing. However, I feel like I can see a bit of the setting. Zenith's family were looking down on Aisha as an illegitimate child. And with that, Aisha gave it her best in order to not lose to Norn. As expected, Paul never made any sort of distinction though. It seems that in a place I wasn't aware, the relationship between my two little sisters turned into something distorted. There are no longer any nobles nearby. There's no one to look down on Aisha. If I properly keep them company, then with time, things should be resolved. For the time being, I'll add a condition onto that. Norn, at least once every 10 days, you need to show your face in this house. After saying that, Norn lowered her eyebrows. For what reason? Because I'll worry. Also, I have responsibility as the overseer. I wouldn't be able to show my face in front of Paul if I left her in the dorm and abandoned her there. I understand. Norn nodded with an unwilling feeling.
That's it guys, thank you for watching, subscribe if you want more and don't forget to like the videos.